Well, hello again. It's a little too cool out today, and it's still a little bit too windy for me to go out there and start messing with the garden. You know, I wish I had some nice, warm, sunny weather like they're having up there in the northeast, then I could get out there and get some things done. But no, we down here have to suffer with the cold and the wind. It must be 60 degrees out there. Anyway, a little more note on our Zenith radio. I've been getting quite a bit of comments on that. I've even got a couple of private messages about it, and I'm glad to see that. A couple of guys have had these things for years, and one said he's been sitting around for 10 years waiting to be worked on. I guess now he's motivated. I'm glad to hear that too, Same radio, by the way. Anyway, I did the tube tests on it, and 3 of the tubes are bad. One of them being this rectifier tube. This rectifier tube is a 6X GT, I believe. Yeah, this is up until the early 40s, from the late 30s to the early 40s, Zenith used a rectifier tube 6X and a 6X5 and a 6X5 GT, which was the later model. Unfortunately, the cathode to filament after a while would short, and one side of the filament was grounded. So what was happening was B plus was, B plus goes out the cathode toward the field coil, and with the cathode being shorted to the filament and one side of the filament being connected to ground, guess what happened? The voltage would go from cathode to filament to ground, and it would eventually wipe out the high voltage winding in your power transformer, the secondary winding, the plate voltage winding in that transformer. And unfortunately, the transformers during that time were pretty wimpy also. So you had a combination of a wimpy transformer and a really bad design on a rectifier. So, and some folks just say, well, instead of using the original 6X5, I'll just put the 6X5 GT in there and just play it every once in a while, and it should be okay. I don't want to do that. No, never. That's dumb. What I'm going to do, they didn't want to use a solid state design or use, diodes and things like that. They would rather, take a chance on burning out the transformer by having the original look. I don't see things that way. They have a brand new one out. It's solid state. I bought it and used them before in another Zenith. It's called the WX5. It's made by the company. It's called a copper cap, made by Weber. And I'm going to buy another one of those, and we're going to get rid of this right now. It's in the trash, okay? That ensures that I have to buy the Weber. They're a little pricey, but, considering the radio and the age and the fact that I'm going to be giving it to my dentist, I don't want the thing crapping out, start smoking, and wipe out his transformer. What am I supposed to do for a transformer? So that's what's going on with that. Back to the Juke. Now, after I watched the video last night, I went back and took a second look at it to see if there was anything I had forgotten. And, I thought this might have been a little bit too close still to the record. Not in this mode, but after it had actually brought the record up. I wanted just a tad more space there. It looked like it was just too close to the edge of the record. So I went ahead and took my little wrench, and I went ahead and tightened up this little bolt right here just a little bit more, which gave me just a little bit more space up there. So now I'm kind of happy. And the next thing we're going to be doing on this is the Tonearm memory unit position. I'll tell you what, guys, this is not going to be easy because a lot of this is gobbledygook to me. I'll tell you what. Let me see if I can read you a section. It says, this may be done with a preliminary lateral adjustment of the unit by placing the mechanism at A1 and mounting it on the magazine with rear plunger just touching contact rivet for adjacent selection to the left of the contact for A1. Now, if that's not gobbledygook, I don't know what it is. But anyway, here's what apparently I have to do. I've got to get my Tonearm memory unit back up there, which is that gold thing over there. And then it has to be tested in the middle. We have to look at the contacts. They have to be these pins down here will be touching those contacts. Incidentally, I just realized, I don't know why I hadn't seen this before. If I did, I just don't remember. But you'll see that this front, these contact pins are offset from one another. Now these in the middle are your ground pins, okay? But this one is more this way, and this one you'll see is closer to that screw over there that way. This is the right, and this is the left for the right and left side of the record. Isn't that cool? Alright, so you have to make sure that this and this are in the right position on the tour mat when the tour mat is mounted, and you know, so when the carriage goes back and forth, the carriage of course takes this entire block with it, and it rides along on that stationary memory unit, which is fastened here by these. There's two screws here. I got the other one out because this was hitting it. Anyway, once that thing is mounted and these things go back and forth, they have to be in the right position, otherwise it'll play the wrong record every time. So it has to be checked at one end, and then the other end, and then the middle, and you have to we're talking about a distance of 1/64 of an inch between pins, and I'm talking about, now here's your rows of pins. This is your right plunger right here. It has to be at the front of the block, which is toward the carriage, and here's your left. Now they have to be in this position for A1, I believe it is. Where is it here? Just at the front, I guess. I have to read all the rest of this, but this is where you start, in this position here. So first let me get the thing mounted up there, and then we'll skull brain this thing a little bit more and see what happens. In order to work on this tour mat, I had to get it up in the air. I've just got it on a couple of 2x4s, 3 of them with a towel here. It's got to be able to see what I'm doing up underneath here, because these contacts right here, these plunger contacts, these little babies right there, you know, they're making contact with the with those buttons underneath there. They've got to be right. Before I took it off, I scratched lines in around here. Let me get some focus here. Jeez, too much light for the camera, I guess. Before I took it off, I scratched lines in around there and around here. So that told me, you know, that gave me a starting point from where it was originally. And I now have it right back where it was. But as you can see, part of the adjustment procedure for this thing is making sure this is not too much forward, too far back, and making sure it's level, okay? And as you can see, it's not level. See how much space we have on the right here as opposed to the left? And I don't know about the front and back. I'll have to work on that, but that's adjusted by this screw here. See how much space we got there? And this screw here is about equal space. But we've got to get, no, I guess it's this here. I guess it's these two screws here, move it in and out that way, and these two screws over here move it up and down, or you know, level it up. So I'm going to have to level this thing up. But first we need to do some cleaning. There's quite a bit of gook still down in there. I think I better hit that with some alcohol and a brush. You know, while I'm cleaning this, it sort of came to mind that we have a few of our subscribers that we haven't heard from in a while. You know, old Radio Al. Whatever happened to old Radio Al? I know he wants his privacy, but you know, he could chime in and say hello once in a while. Mr. Harvey Luke. Where is Mr. Harvey Luke, you know? And then Mr. Mac 5150. You know, he pops in every so often, but you know, I'd like to see him a little more. Then, of course, we have good old Phil, who is Steel City 321 PB. I don't know whatever happened to him. I don't know, maybe the wife's got him working so hard in the kitchen. He said he just loves to cook. He's so good at it. Where are all you boys? You know, you could at least let us know you're still alive, you know. And I'm sure there's a couple others out there that decided to just disappear on us. No, we don't need disappearing. Alright, I think I'm all done, and I think what I'm going to do here, they want me to put this into play position with the carriage back in somewhere in the center of the rack, you know, as if we were going to pick up a radio. I mean a record. So that's what I'm going to have to do. But before I do that, I've decided this thing is really, really out of whack here, and I think the plungers are way too tight. Yeah, they're really tight. They're riding way too tight. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this thing to take out, you know, loosen up the screws, and I'm going to move this thing down and get that pressure off those contact plungers. Alright, now I feel a little better. We've got a little movement going on here. That thing was really jammed tight again. I'm sure it has something to do with this thing leaning on it, but they weren't that bad. We've got a lot of space in there now. Now let's turn it around and get it where the position's supposed to be and in the play position. Alright, she's back toward the center and into play mode, the play notch. I'll tell you what, I'm going to see these play and scan notches in my sleep. I'm sick of looking at them. I want to get it over with. Not much more to go. Once we get the Tonearm memory unit adjusted, the next 7 pages of adjustment procedures deal with this stuff right here. The old pickup arm. All this stuff right here. I don't think we have to go anywhere but right here, which is going to be nice for a change. So let's spin this baby back around. We got to go back to the Tonearm memory unit. I'll tell you what, dragging this thing around, this way and then that way, it was driving me crazy, moving these cables around to match up so I didn't tear anything up. So I finally decided, what the heck, I'll just go ahead and unplug all the cables except for one, this one right here from the Tonearm. Now I can go ahead and swivel it around all I want to, to a certain extent, and not have to worry about tearing up these cables. I'll have to be checking them anyway from time to time just to make sure everything's good. I think they're good. Anyway, let's continue on. Well, we might have got a little lucky here. A nice break, I think. And, I'd like to move out of here and get this thing taken care of without, I don't want to cause any damage to this, but we might have got a stroke of luck here. I've got the record in record slot F3, and then to make sure I was on the same sheet of music as where the record was, I drew a horizontal line from the record straight down to right here to where I could make sure it was lined up with the plunger. Now this plunger, you'll notice, is to the left a little bit, and if you look back in there all the way to the rear, back in there where the other plunger is, it's slightly to the left also, just slightly to the left. So what do we do about that? Well, according to the book, we don't do anything about it because it's apparently exactly where it's supposed to be. Let's take a look at that. This is the back of the block. This is the back of the block right here. Now the back of the block, the plunger is supposed to be just to the left of the record that you're dealing with. It said right here. And all the way to the rear, it should be just to the right and just to the left of the one at the front of the block. So this one is in the right position. This one is exactly where it's supposed to be, to the left. It looks like it's almost touching the one next to it. And son of a gun, I can't get over that. Let me get the flashlight here. Make sure I'm not talking through my head. No, that's exactly where it's supposed to be. Take a look at that. If I close that thing down, if I raise this thing up, it'll be exactly to the left of the one where the line is, and just barely touching the one to the left of it. I do believe we have what I'm supposed to have here. I'm going to go ahead and continue on with the adjustment procedure, but I think we're good to go. I'm going to double and triple check it, of course. Okay, I'm happy with that. I am happy with that. The next 2 adjustments on this thing is to take this block and move it in and out, so at the center of the plunger contacts are directly over the center of the pins up here. Then we have to come back and adjust the height to make sure we don't have too much pressure. See, where before these things were smashed all the way down as far as they would go, and it was really causing a lot of wear there. So we need to adjust the height just right, and then we need to adjust the horizontal position of it. The vertical, I guess that would be called vertical, in and out. I don't know what they would call it. What do they call it here? They call it the vertical position. Okay, the vertical position and the horizontal position. That's what it is. So let me get that done. To adjust the horizontal position, you have to loosen up this screw right here and this one right here. I've already got this one loose back there. We'll go ahead and loosen this. Alright. Now we can shove that thing in or out a little bit until the plunger is right over the top of the pin exactly. So that's what I'm going to do. It's going to take both hands to do it. Alright, what we're moving here, now the screws, I had to loosen them quite a bit, but what we're moving here is this black block. See it going in and out like so? Alright. Let me go ahead and get it centered up and tighten them back up. Well, that's all done. That was a piece of cake. Absolute piece of cake. Oh, anybody could have done that one. It looked more difficult than it was. Of course, if something goes wrong and it doesn't pick up the records at a later time where it goes to the wrong one, maybe one slot over or one slot to the left, we know where we have to come back and make an adjustment. All right, all we have left is to raise it up in the vertical position. Unloosen these, or loosen these. There we go with the unloosen again. Loosen these screws up a little bit and then push it up. It says I need 1/4 of an inch of distance between here and the top of this block. Or, this pleat right here. 1/4 of an inch, piece of cake. Alright, I think that's about 1/4 of an inch. Right about there, if I can get a little closer. It's about 1/4 of an inch. I only lightly tightened up these screws because when I take this thing down off these boards, I think that the whole thing's going to drop down and the space will close up quite a bit, so I'll have to readjust it. I don't think it'll stay right there at 1/4 of an inch. So let's get them off the boards and find out. Alright, let's check it and see what we got here. We have, it'll be a son of a gun if we don't have 1/4 of an inch. We got 1/4 of an inch there. Right like that. I'd say we're good to go. Alright, I'll tighten up those 2 screws and I'm going to call this one done, and we'll move on to the front of the mechanism again where the tone arm is. Now you're supposed to check this thing at the left side and the right side, but I'll tell you what, I don't want to mess with this thing anymore. We'll just wait and see what happens when we go ahead and fire it up and see if it picks up a record. I think if it picks it up in the center, or if we've adjusted it in the center, it should be good on both ends. That's the way I look at it. If not, we'll have to go back and do an adjustment. I don't know how I can adjust it any differently. Doesn't make sense. I mean, it's all the same steps, no matter where it's positioned. Alright, let's flip it around to the front. Well, it looks like we're going to have to call this thing quits at this point, whether I want to or not. Now, ever since I've had this jukebox, I've been trying to figure out how to get this position thing for the needle and pickup arm, how to get this thing to slide back and forth. I'm talking about this top half. You'll see there's a split here, this top half. And I cannot figure out how to get that thing to go back and forth. It only goes that far. It should go all the way over there. And that's the way it shows in the book for the next adjustment. Let me zero in on here. This is important. Where, see right here, they've got that screw thing all the way to the left. They have it circled all the way to the left, and the slot is all the way to the right. I have it just the opposite. The screw thing is to the right and the slot is to the left. I can't, ever since I've had it, I have not been able to figure out. I've tried to release this and release that and move this lever, move that lever. I need some smart guys to tell me. I've seen it done on YouTube, but they never stop and show you how they did it. They just move it, All right, I need somebody out there who's smart to tell me what do I have to release? What do I have to do to get this thing to slide to the left so I can get this pickup arm to the left side of a record when it's playing? I'll have to sit and wait until somebody tells me. Until next time, this is John.